Hello everyone, welcome to Talking of Dr. Laz, your favorite health program on television, reaching you from Nigeria's capital city, Abuja. My name is Dr. Laz Eze. Yes, on the program today we'll be talking about wellness at the workplace. Most people in during their work age or working active periods spend more time at the place of work than even the time they spend at home or the time they spend with their loved ones. It is therefore very important that we care about their wellness while they are at the workplace. Of course, organizations, many of them have policies. Small businesses or small organizations, not many of them have well-developed policies that cover the wellness of the staff. World Health Organization describes health as the complete state of physical, mental, and psychosocial well-being, and not just the absence of disease or infirmity. In other words, for someone to be described as being well, the person must have complete state of physical, mental, and social well-being. So within the office, there's some social aspect because you have to interact with people, and also there's the mental aspect because you have to deal with a lot of stress and have to cope with that. And of course, there's the physical aspect, which is the one that's usually more obvious. So on the program today, I have a human resource professional who is going to be joining me, but that's going to be after this break. I'm going to be introducing him so that we have conversation around these issues, because in Nigeria, the productive class, those who are working, are just about a third of the population, those who are very active. Unemployment rate is as much as 33%. Underemployment is over 50%. We are not even talking about those who are elderly and children. So there is much need for our working population to be healthy so that they'll be more productive and they don't break down and cause more economic hardship to those who depend on them. Do stay with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Health Agenda 2023. The Nigerian health system is becoming weaker with the mass exodus of medical doctors, nurses, and other skilled health workers out of the country. In February and March 2023, Nigerians will go to the polls to elect the next president and state governors, respectively. This provides an opportunity for the election of leaders who will help to strengthen the health sector and reposition it to deliver quality healthcare services at all levels. We present to you Health Agenda 2023, an interview segment on this program for presidential and governorship candidates to discuss their health agenda before the electorates. For sponsorship and participation, reach out through any of the contact details displayed on your screen.
Welcome back to Talking of Dr. Laz, your favorite health program on television. Yes, wellness at the workplace, or workplace wellness if you like. And with me to discuss this is JT Oshoke. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Dr. Laz.
Yes, thank you. JT is a career coach and human resource professional, also a public speaker. So now talking about wellness at the workplace, how could you describe that? I know you support organizations in terms of ensuring that their staff are very much productive. Does it cover this aspect of ensuring that they are healthy?
Oh yes, so thank you for having me once again. So wellness at the workplace, basically it's about the health of individuals, the health of professionals who work. Like you pointed out in your background, the time we spend, or career people, employees spend at work is usually even much more than the time they spend at home, because that is their most active periods. So give or take, you spend about 7 to 9 hours every day, every working day, and perhaps even weekends sometimes at work. So this basically looks at the well-being and the healthy nature of the work environment, because the health of professionals, their mental state, which is not seen, plays a huge role in the productivity, in how they are, in their motivation, in their happiness, and so on and so forth. So that's very critical for career professionals and for employees.
Okay, so from your work, what are those things that you see at the workplace or workers tend to complain about, and now we are talking about corporate space, because there are a lot of workplaces. So perhaps from corporate place, at some point, we may even deep dive into occupational health issues that happen more at production sites. But right now, we are focusing more at the corporate place, offices and all of that. What are those things that you think poses most threats to workers?
Okay, so a couple of them, but the first things first is the environment itself. Just the physical environment, how arranged, how conducive is this environment to start with. Because if your environment is not conducive to work, this will affect even how you show up to work or how productive you can be at work. So I give you, for instance, if your environment is a tight space, the workspace is not well arranged for people to have space, that, proper ventilation, as simple as those, proper ventilation, the workstations are not well arranged, hazards here and there, that could also pose threats to you. The toxic environment, the colleagues you're working with, could also pose threats to you. Workload, some people, a lot of career professionals, they do so much, even more than they are paid for. So maybe you find yourself in a job where you're doing what ordinarily should be done by 2 or 3 people, but workload increase and all that, not being able to take adequate breaks.
Right.
Maybe you're working in a place where you don't have an environment that is conducive for you to go on break, even while spending 7 to 9 hours every day working. Maybe your leave is not approved as at the right time. You're not getting enough rest, or your seating arrangements, your chairs are not conducive. The lighting of the office is not, and the physical one. The non-physical one, of course, you can't touch them.
Right.
The social one, the interactions with colleagues, if the environment is not conducive, or the kind of bosses you're even working with. How do they is there respect in that environment? Is your voice heard? Are you valued? All this can have a mental effect on staff well-being in the office.
I like how you started from the physical, also went to the social and also the mental. So that essentially covered that. But also at the workplace, there are some other physical stuff. The restroom, some workplaces don't even have a restroom.
Yeah, true.
Some do, but not well kept.
True.
So the toilet and stuff, are places that people could get diseases.
Yeah.
Do they have a hand washing facility? Because while people work, they should be washing their hands periodically, because they are touching a lot of surfaces.
Absolutely.
Is there a place that's pour water on the floor and someone could sleep and have a fall with dangerous stuff. Is there a fire extinguisher? What are the practices in terms of leaving the office without switching off? Some offices do put notices to this effect. Do you think, is this something that you encourage at workplace? Perhaps for certain notices to be put on the walls for people to
of course,
see it very often and get used to them.
Yeah, absolutely. So cool, because global best practice, what is ideal is that work environment should have a certain standard, because your most critical resource is actually the humans. And that's the capital that makes up, any workspace, any organization at all. So priority and attention should be paid to the health and the well-being of professionals or employees who are working in an environment. So yes, you should have hazard prevention mechanism put in place. So best practice, organizations have, let's say, they have notifications in case there's a fire. First things first, there's a training. So I've been in organizations where they train you on occupational hazards. So you should know that it's a duty as an organization when you have employees to let them know the effects their work. It depends on the sector. So in the productions of manufacturing, for instance, there are hazards, occupational hazard that is more pronounced in those areas. And then in certain other environment, there are other more occupational hazard that is more pronounced. So as simple as a chair, You know, sitting, the way you sit, the way you handle your computer, the way you should, you know, there are basic trainings. So you shouldn't sit for more than 1 hour without standing or changing your positioning. For every 1 hour you walk, you should at least stand for 5 minutes to 15 minutes. You should stretch. You should do. These are basic trainings you should give to your staff so they know the effect it has on their shoulder, on how, you know, on their waist, on their back, or not to develop spasms and all those other pains that comes with sitting
for long hours. Some
and
even
all
have
that.
back pains and stuff.
Exactly, absolutely. And then you find out also the restrooms, you know, are they well taken care of? Do you have people who are there cleaning and making sure the workspace environment, you know, how does it smell nice? You know, these are simple things that organizations owe it to their employees to put in place. And then do they have a cafeteria? Do they have a restaurant where they can eat? You know, just basic small things so that you don't have to walk a distance. Or can you arrange for a canteen? Or when people bring food or meals to the office, is there a place they can microwave their food? Are there refrigerators that they can preserve their food so they don't get food poisoning and all that? So these are simple things. So yes, there is that responsibility to train people, to let them become aware of the hazards to their work environments, at the same time to create awareness around them on the kind of lifestyle or the kind of behaviors they should inculcate if they want to get the best out of themselves, especially as regards to their health.
Okay, that sounds really good. Yes, all those within the office and all of that. There is also laws that provides, you know, there is this NSITF, that organizations are expected to make certain contributions which their staff could benefit, get some benefit in the event that they have some occupational related you know, incidents. Nigerian Social Insurance Trust Fund, NSITF. You know, so, but there's also the place for health insurance.
Absolutely.
And now with the National Health Insurance Authority Act 2022 is now mandatory for every Nigerian to have health insurance. So for people who are working, it's expected that you know, the employer should provide that as part of their package. So you talked about leave. There's small businesses, small organizations, most times do not allow their workers to take leave, even though it might be in their contract. But when they apply for it, you know, they expressly tell you, why do you want to blackmail them into not taking the leave? What are the potential implications of this kind of practice in terms of satisfaction on the part or the mental health?
Okay, so I'll just give you a quick background. So there are obligations every employer owe their employees. So it's a contract, it's not a slave servant, I mean a servant kind of, it's not that kind of relationship. So it's a mutual thing. So for every employee who comes to an organization, there is value they bring in. So I'm exchanging my time, my intellect. That is what I'm exchanging for wage or for a salary at this particular point in time, my competence and all that. So as an employer, there are responsibilities. But the issue there is compliance, the regulation, right? So the law is there. For instance, you mentioned the NSITF. So every organization should set aside 1% of its, you know, annual income for the organization, the wage, and then pay to the NSITF so that they protect their staff in case of any accident, so they are covered. They also go beyond that because the PENCOM Act. So there is also an obligation to provide the HMO services for health insurance for those. There are a lot of private organizations where you should, once you have a staff strength from 3 to 5 and above, you should be able to provide cover for them so that they don't have to use from their pay to be going for health services. They have malaria, they have pains here and there. And it covers about 4 of their dependents. Let's say a married person, your spouse, and then 4 dependents. If you're single, it covers you, whatever plan that you organize. So you owe them that duty of care. It's called duty of care that you should give to them. And then not only that, even even in case of besides
health insurance.
besides the health insurance, there is also the group life insurance.
Group life insurance,
there is
right.
also the accident insurance, the GPA and the GLA that you pay to insurance companies beside the NSITF, right? Now coming to the leave. Because of regulation, once again, because we talked about the employment rates and the underemployment rates in Nigeria, so a lot of employers, especially the small business employers, it feels like they are doing a favor to their employees because of the unemployment rates. People just take anything that is available to them,
and they'll tell you if you're not interested.
Hey, if you're not
leave.
interested, I have
We
1,001 people
who are lined up. That
exactly,
and
so
that could be traumatic.
It could be traumatic, and that has an adverse effect on your well-being at work. So you see that you are there in body, but you're not there in spirit. So there is no satisfaction. You're under enormous stress, and that is affecting your mental well-being. You're not able to give your best. You are deprived of rest. Right. So you should go for your leave. What is the essence of leave, really? It has been calculated that, look, for every period you work, at least, give or take, you should have at least 20 days to rest within a calendar year on an average. So
that's like an average of 2 days
in a month.
Right.
An average of 2 days in a month. You should be able to, besides a sick leave, you should be entitled to, so I'm not feeling so well, maternity if you're a woman and all that. There's so compassionate leave if you're bereaved. There's a lot of leave. People just focus on annual leave. There's career break. Let's say you're writing exams. There's a leave, academic leave, perhaps 5 days in a year. There's paternity. There should be paternity for fathers. Right. You know, Lagos State has about 10 days, that they give. So private organizations, they are beginning to have 5 days, 10 days, not only for the women, but for the men as well. Okay. That period is for you to go and take care, because it's work-life balance. Right. You have a life beyond the workplace.
Wow, you have a life beyond the workplace, and your health has to be very optimal for your productivity or your output at the workplace to be very much optimal. I've been talking with JT Oshoke, a human resource professional and career coach, and we've been discussing wellness at the workplace. Do stay with us. We'll be right back.
Health Agenda 2023. The Nigerian health system is becoming weaker with the mass exodus of medical doctors, nurses, and other skilled health workers out of the country. In February and March 2023, Nigerians will go to the polls to elect the next president and state governors, respectively. This provides an opportunity for the election of leaders who will help to strengthen the health sector and reposition it to deliver quality healthcare services at all levels. We present to you Health Agenda 2023, an interview segment on this program for presidential and governorship candidates to discuss their health agenda before the electorates. For sponsorship and participation, reach out through any of the contact details displayed on your screen.
Welcome back to Talk Here with Dr. Laz, your favorite health program on television. Are you a worker? Is your workplace conducive for you? Is the environment okay? Do you have good relationship, at least good working relationship with your colleagues at work? Is your boss treating you well? Are you also very productive, giving value for the money you are being paid at the place of work? Do you have health insurance? Are you taking precautions at the workplace to ensure that both you and your colleagues are safe? We've been talking about wellness at the workplace, and my guest has been JT Oshoke, a human resource professional. Yes, we're back. This segment, let's now talk about first aid. Let's talk about CPR, which is also a form of first aid, cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Are these things what people should know about? Every office, I think, should have a first aid box. And for bigger organizations, they can even have a clinic. For instance, we are at AIT Studio, Dark Communications has a clinic within the complex, where persons could quickly go and check for their health if they have any concern. Some should even have ambulances, in the event that there is a health emergency. So from your experience, how much do you see of these? is it a case of someone slumps, people start pouring water and making incantations, hoping the person gets better?
Yeah.
So how much have you seen of these in many offices? What would you want to recommend in this regard?
So I've been privileged to work in organizations that are quite structured and large. So they provide these basic services. I've also, in my line of work, working with businesses and trying to also advise or consult for best practice. We've seen situations that are ideal, but I'm just going to look at it. There are situations that are ideal, that's the best practice, while you have those who perhaps don't pay so much attention. But the ideal thing should be that, as a duty of care, because of the time we spend at work, we should envisage that people could get sick, people could take ill due to one reason or the other. Now, this signs may not tell. I mean, they may not show. You might leave your house healthy, you come to the workspace, and then anything can just happen. So yes, it is the HR professionals who are in any environment must make sure, it is a responsibility for them to make sure that there is a first aid box, not just being there for fancy. It must be well kitted, it must be well equipped, and then you must replenish it with the basic necessary things, such as maybe the paracetamols and all the, for headaches, for stomach, for cuts and all that. So that's there. Then there's a training aspect. So you must ensure that all staff are properly trained for first aid. They know where the first aid must be visible, because there is a sign there, you know where it is, perhaps on the walkway or in the kitchen or on top of the refrigerator, where everybody can easily go to, they reach out to it. Then not only that, there should also in the work environment be, let's say for any hazard, for fire, there should be fire drills every now and then. It's a training. So there's a muster point where we get to.
I see a lot of that in many places, you see muster point, but you know that not everyone even knows what it means.
Yes.
That's
why you need to keep doing
training.
refreshers. You need to you bring in professionals from fire safety in collaboration. Then you must also have inside focal persons. Now these persons, everybody should know how to conduct CPR.
And CPR means cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Exactly.
Everybody, but notwithstanding, you should have a few champions in various departments who are trained to know what to watch out for in case there's an emergency, what you should do and what you shouldn't do. And then just knowing that, look, because this floor is wet, maybe the cleaners, they know if we are cleaning the surface, we should put a sign there so that somebody who is coming might not trip, sleep, and then get involved in a hazard that is unplanned for in the work environment. So yes, and then not only the physical one, the mental ones. Organizations should have mental first aiders, psychosocial, psychological first aiders, where you train people, perhaps maybe they're HR people or somebody else people who have been trained just to be able to watch out for signs. If somebody is stressed, somebody is going through a downtime, just to prevent getting into a depressive mode. Somebody who you are able, just like they say, first aid, the physical one, the mental first aid.
You and even a channel for people to make complaints.
Absolutely.
Without being victimized. I've worked in an organization where either for whistleblowing or your boss is being somehow overbearing, or you're facing sexual harassment and things like that.
So what organizations are doing now, especially for big structured organizations, global best practice is that in your code of conduct policies, you should have things like safeguarding laws, you should have sexual harassment, anti-bullying policies, either as standalone or they are embedded in your code of conduct. So there is a line of reporting.
Some even have for children, for child protection.
Absolutely, for child protection. So organizations are beginning to take this thing seriously, whereas it wasn't before. So that if you, maybe a direct report, you feel like your line manager is bullying you, is depriving you unnecessarily, if you're not, you should empower people anonymously, or you as a colleague, you might see something that is going wrong, you speak up. You know, so organizations begin to create this mechanism, these channels, so that you can report it anonymously, and then it goes to a designated focal person, perhaps the CEO or the head of HR, and the investigation will go in just to protect the workspace. Because there are a lot of vulnerable people in the work environment. There are a lot of people who are being, you know, harassed, and they cannot speak. And exactly,
someone they could talk to.
Exactly, and this will cause a lot of internal problems that could lead to mental well-being. You just notice somebody is behaving antisocially, or somebody is withdrawing, and they are not able to be at their best any longer. There is more to it. So organizations should begin to create enabling environments where people can be free to express themselves, and if perhaps they are not able to, they should relate to the right channels for remedies.
Right, absolutely. You know, some organizations tend to be most compassionate when someone is dead, and they release a lot of money towards burials and make a lot of promises. But, you know, perhaps what's led to the death is something that they could have provided support and prevent, because non-communicable diseases, I'll speak a bit about that before we round up. You know, hypertension, usually from age 40 and above, is much more common, right? You know, so, and you know, the show for face, no sign at all. If hypertension should give a sign, means it's already causing complications. It can have complications on the heart. You know, it can even lead to stroke and all of that before someone knows something is going on. Diabetes too, when it begins early stages, we may not really place the symptoms. Maybe someone is urinating too often, you know, drinking a lot of water and all of that. You know, stress management, like you mentioned, those who have been trained in this area, just watch out for certain signs and know, oh, this person, you need some rest.
Absolutely.
There are organizations that they will force you to take leave, even if you don't want to, because they just want you to get a bit relaxed. You know? So now on the final note, because our time is essentially up, what is your last word to the worker now, not just to the employers? That worker is your health, is your body. What, in a situation you are in a place where you feel they don't prioritize your health, what are the options for that worker?
Okay, so so as a career coach, I'm going to say that your career is in your hands, and you owe it to yourself. So I liken it to the golden goose. The goose that lays the golden egg. So as a career professional, as an employee, you are the goose. You lay the golden egg for that organization. Now, if an organization is trying to kill or suffocate the goose should not be able to lay the golden egg in terms of outputs that they are getting. If you as a goose, you see you're in an environment where that is not, they have conversations, right? And if you weigh your options, the ones that are within your control, you deal with them. The one that is not within your control, then maybe perhaps you need to begin to look at the environments where you are. Is this place helping you mentally? Is this place helping your well-being? Is this place, and what options are available to you? You can explore those options.
All right, that's a very good way to end the program. I've been talking with JT Oshoke, a human resource professional and a career coach, and we just had conversation on well-being at the workplace. Of course, this is just a very general discussion, prioritizing those who are working in corporate places or sitting in the office, but there is so many jobs out there. There are people in the market, there are people who are, you know, flying in the aeroplane. There are journalists. Now it's political season. There will be a lot of travels among journalists who are moving with politicians, with candidates in the course of campaigns, sometimes with security challenges, sometimes with robberies, accidents, survivors, and so many things. So please, both employers specifically, your biggest assets is the workers. And if you think they are just easily replaceable, just lose one of your most experienced workers and get a new, you know, a greenhorn. You know that, yes, nobody is indispensable, but at the same time, you can't do so much if your workers are not very healthy. That's all we can have today on the program. I really want to thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And to our viewers, thank you for being with us. We'll be with you again, same station, same time next week. Bye for now.